these two people who are in love at the very beginning and end up in tragic circumstances at the end. They both think that they're right, and they're both going for their argument, but they just miss each other. And in that way, the synapses have to keep going. You have to be present with the person that you're with. Any changes they make, take it on board. So it feels fast, but it also feels really quite real, like how we're talking.
You know, so we feel so comfortable with your character at the start. You're so in command, and there's this beautiful pace that you manage to get. You just start questioning yourself. I love that. And so, as it continues, I suppose, how do you prepare yourself for such a violent scene at the end? I mean, it must be one of the most challenging things to do, really, because it's so far removed from who you are as a person.
It begins in a time of darkness, and then there's a storm. Then there is a moment of happiness, which could be the eye of the storm, and then there's the other end of the storm that ends, that finishes the cyclone. So, in moving within that structure, it's easy enough to present a person that's stoic at the very beginning, who is in command of his faculties, who has yet to be influenced by the manipulations of the other. And then once the storm happens, as with every Shakespearean play, it denotes that there's something that's wrong. And we can then start to look at the language that gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And it can affect the way that your delivery goes. Up until the very moment that he has an epileptic fit, he still speaks in prose. And then he finally goes to verse. Verse and then in prose. And those little ideas and hints from Shakespeare can help you move from one of delivery into actual habitation.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, incredible trust.
Yeah.
I mean, you just must have amazing trust between the two of you to go to that place.
Yeah, because that's something that we touched on a lot in the rehearsal room, which is the misogyny in the play, the otherness of characters in the play, but a lot of work we did with the female cast members was the female voice. How is it represented here? But one of the aspects that we wanted to do was not make it subtle. We wanted it to be as confronting as possible, because 1 in 4 women experience it.
Absolutely. And the violence is shocking. So I think you really achieved your objective there, but in a great way, because it's something to know that someone's been murdered, but to see it take place in front of you is so dreadful and horrific. And we know that you've had to go to that place. You know, it's not that you're just bereft, but you've actually murdered her in front of us, and we were helpless. So it's an incredibly moving, emotional, horrifying moment, but you do it so well. You both do it so well, and it's a thrilling performance. So
I guess it's also, there's something to be said about the audience interaction, in that theatre essentially exists because we do something on stage and there's an audience that watches. And so from the very beginning, we make it very complicit. Feel this sense of going with him, going, oh, I know your story, I know what you're going to do. Then by the end of it, you're like, no, don't do that.
Yeah,
why?
Don't.
Yeah,
I know.
that's
You're one of my first in the dressing room interviewees, but you won't be my last. So I hope you don't get too jealous.
Boom, tish. That's great.